which is going to happen from September 27th, 2019 until April 21st, 2020. So check this out. It's going to be a very important transformative time with Rahu moving through his nakshatra, Ardra, and I say his nakshatra because the planets are connected to nakshatras through the Vimshotri Dasha scheme. And as you can see, this this shows the chart. We see it right here. The chart of Rahu, and it's in the nakshatra of Ardra, and it will be there for, what is that, 7 months. And so Ardra Nakshatra is related to Lord Shiva, Lord Rudra. Even the name, we call it Ardra, A-R-D-R-A, and it's also called Arudra. Rudra, the name is actually in the name of the nakshatra is the name of the deity, Arudra and Ardra. So this is a very fierce section of the sky. It's where we have the plane of the galaxy. The galactic plane runs in the early degrees of Ardra back to Mula, in the middle of Mula Nakshatra. Now, of course, this is in the Rashi of Gemini, Ardra is, and opposite that is the Rashi of Sagittarius. So these two signs are, the signs also of this transformation and this merging of intelligence and discrimination and trying to figure out and destroy and change, which is the Gemini sign, and the Sagittarius, which is about finding the higher truth. And of course, the nakshatras are the foundation of the Vedic zodiac system and Vedic astrology itself. Everything is nailed to the sidereal sky back in the Rig Veda, back in the Vedas. And then in later texts, once they started to use Rashis, they said the nakshatras define the space and the Rashis occupy the same space, with Ashwini and Aries at the beginning point. And again, so that's in every one of the Vedic astrology texts. So these nakshatras are nailed to the signs are nailed to the nakshatras. And so we see this quality of Ardra as a part of Shiva's energy, of Rudra, Shiva's energy. And again, so Rudra is about this, it's overdone to say change and transformation, but it's the kind of change and transformation that is fighting for dharma, fighting for purpose, and fighting to correct the mistakes and of, when there's a violation of dharma, it's Ardra or Rudra who comes to destroy the weakness. This is the facet of Shiva that is the one with the trident, with the Trishula, and the three gunas are on the edge of, Shiva holds what we would call a trident. That's actually that's an instrument of Neptune in Greek mythology, but it's Shiva holds the trident or the in Vedic teaching, and it's literally the three gunas are the three prongs of the trident. It's called the Trishula, and it's the Trishula that comes at you to destroy and take things away. It's like a pitchfork. Let's face it, Shiva is a destroyer, and that means the one of death, the one who brings the death. And again, death is in all, death is everywhere. And I don't necessarily even mean like your physical death, Physical death is very gross. How's my hair look? Oh, by the way, I meant to have this. I meant to put on. This is me. This is me doing the Rudra. This is Sam in Rudra Bhav, right? I could pull my hair up in the Rudra knot as well, but I think if Rudra wore shades, wore sunglasses, they would look like this, right? This is Sam in the Rudra Bhav. No, so, but it's Rudra that comes to destroy and transform and change. And you have to understand that everything is about change, destruction, growth, transformation. And it's these planets, when you get planets in Ardra, if anyone has planets in Ardra in their natal chart, important planets like the sun, the moon, the ascendant. Leisha says, your hair is great as always. Thank you. By the way, Ardra, this nakshatra actually has to do with the hair. I don't remember the text. I think it might be in the Varahamihira Brihat Samhita, but the nakshatras rule body parts, and I think Ardra is related to the hair. But anyway, I don't want to divert too much. But no, so the death and destruction is everywhere. And you have to understand, it's this section of the zodiac. It's nailed to those dual signs, those transformative signs of Gemini and Sagittarius, where energy is variable, and it's on the plane of the galaxy, the galactic plane, which is also this transformational, destructive, dangerous energy. Because you have to understand that this section of the zodiac is literally where the plane of the galaxy runs. Now, again, you have to understand what the plane of the galaxy is. It's where all of this energy from the center of the galaxy is radiating toward us. And if it wasn't for the sun's heliosphere, which envelops the whole solar system, the radiation from the center of the galaxy would destroy everything. It would destroy life. There's so much X-rays and gamma rays and radiation that comes from the center of the galaxy. From this section of the sky. Again, we're looking in the sky, we're looking all around, we don't notice. When you're looking at Ardra, and Mula, those two nakshatras, one is on one side, one is on the other. When you're looking at Ardra, we're still aligned with the plane of the galaxy, but we're looking away from the center. When we're looking at Mula, we're looking back toward the center. But they're still both aligned on the plane. It's a plane. It's the galactic plane. You've seen that our galaxy is like a mushroom shaped, and it's like when you're looking back, there's the bulge of stars, and then there's the plane that runs sort of like this. It sits like this, and then there's a bulge of stars like that, right? Something like this. That's the way the galaxy kind of looks. Well, this plane, this galactic plane, is where Ardra Mula runs. So the Ardra end is the end of really transforming life events and things on Earth. This is definitely the most destructive section of the zodiac. I'm going to do an update here very soon where I talk about all of the destructive things that happen in Ardra Nakshatra. Almost every war that ever started, like the U.S. war, there were important planets in Ardra. We had 9/11 happen in Ardra, the big hurricanes of Katrina, and the big, like the earthquake, tidal wave in Indonesia, was in Ardra. Very potentially destructive. Jill Leslie, you do have beautiful hair. I remember. And Ardra is that nakshatra related, and I've also noticed this too, is that Ardra has that sort of quality. I don't remember. I believe it was in Brihat Samhita, but So this destructive energy is really important. And so whenever there are planets there, the person has the mark of Shiva Rudra in that fierce form. And again, this is really the archetypal form of Shiva that we always hear about in the Trimurti. You know, we say Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, where Shiva is the destroyer, Vishnu is the maintainer or the preserver, and Brahma is the creator. That destroyer quality is Ardra, and it's this section of the sky. You want to understand this again, and you really understand that this is the foundation of all Vedic teaching, of course, Vedic astrology. Everything is pinned to this sidereal sky. All of the deities and gods from the Vedas are in these different sections of the sky. So again, when planets move there, it's the force and power of that deity, of that energy that we get at that time. And it's, you know, that's like the foundation of all the Vedic thought. Of course, this is a small section. It's 1/27th of the sky, right? It's 1/27th. It's not that big. But it's that 1/27th of the sky is the abode of Shiva in his fierce form as Rudra. Now, a few things to really key on that can be very helpful in understanding or in embracing these qualities for the next several months. Number one is listening to the Sri Rudram. Now, I'm telling you this right now. If you want to really feel the power of Shiva and what Shiva's energy is like, listen to the Sri Rudram. This is the mantra. I'm going to type it right here. This is from the Krishna Yajurveda. You can Google it right now, or you can search it on YouTube, Sri Rudram, and you can hear a group of Vedic pundits saying, you know, chanting this, and you'll get taken right into the Shiva Loka. Listening to the Sri Rudram is one of the most transformative. There's no chant like the Rudram, in my opinion. Of course, I'm a Shiva guy because I have my son in Ardra. That's why I fight for the Dharma. If you're violating Dharma, I'm going to fight you. If you're not, I don't care. If you're not, I'll fight for you. And I'll even fight for whatever you want to do as long as it doesn't violate Dharma and confuse people who want to learn the Dharma. If you're confusing people who want to learn the Dharma and you're confusing people at the expense of the Dharma, then I'm going to say something. But I have my son in Ardra. That's where that fighting for the Dharma comes from. Again, this is a quality of Gemini. And I'll tell you again, this is definitely, again, if we're talking tropical, it goes into Cancer. And this is one of those nakshatras where it really, really doesn't make sense. As Jill said, defend the tradition. Yep. This is one of the nakshatras where it really starts to strain credulity, regardless. And again, if people want to do it, I've never had an issue with people. And you can look at every video every time I've ever talked about it. Some people want to lump me into this idea that I think it's wrong that people use the tropical with the nakshatras, or I think they're not doing, they're not doing it right, or that it doesn't work, or I've never said any of that. You can do it. Yeah, it's all legitimate, but it's not Indian. That's not what the Indians did, and we know that. We have the texts already. It's not going to And this is the way it's meant to be practiced and taught and learned, because this is also why it hasn't changed for so long, because it's connected to those same teachings, and the system works. It works that way. And it nails this quality of Gemini, because Gemini is not this kind of, when you look at Gemini, even in Western astrology, this is why I thought of it, because even Gemini in Western astrology is a lot like Cancer. It's two little kids playing, and it's, we're playful, and we're this and that, and we're, kind of spacey. It's almost like this immature children. It's still two, humans, but they're little kids, very Cancerian-like, because half of Gemini is now Cancer, right? But when you look at the Nakshatra, at the Rashi Mithuna, and the symbol in Vedic, it's nothing like that. It's a man with a club. It's a woman playing a musical instrument. It's a very fierce, transformative Gemini. When you look at the signs, you'll find Gemini is like one of the most, in some ways, just badass, in the sense of, like, they'll tell you the truth. They don't care how you feel about it. It's like fierce. It's a fierce sign. It's not little kids playing. Again, it's no matter what the truth is. Again, it's focused on the truth and a fierce defense of the truth, because the only nakshatra that exists completely in Gemini is Ardra. The other nakshatras, Mrigashira is the first 6 degrees or so, and Punarvasu is the last 10. But the only one that's completely in Gemini is Ardra. So this is one of the things to understand about the nakshatras of the air signs. The nakshatras that exist completely in the air signs are the Rahu type nakshatras, which is Swati for Libra and Shatabishak for Aquarius and Ardra for Gemini. So again, you can see this really fierce quality of this sidereal Gemini. It's very different sign than it is with the same section of sky using tropical. And again, that's what it is. It's the same section of sky, but that same section of sky, if using tropical, is what we would call Cancer, right? Like my sun is right in the middle of Ardra Nakshatra in Vedic, but it's in Cancer. It's firmly in Cancer in Western, right? So again, anyway, not to get into that thing, but I'm just bringing this out because you can see this. I want to delineate this nature of how Ardra is this fierce quality of Shiva, and people often have a problem. Well, how is that related to Gemini? Mainly because, again, especially Westerners, we have this nature about Gemini. Oh, it's little kids playing. It's playful. It is. But Gemini is always ready to destroy anything that's not true. I don't care if I used to believe it. If I learn something new, screw it. I'm going to say, all right, this is it. I'm going to show up, say the truth, mean it. And if it upsets everybody's belief, well, sad day for you, I guess. Because that fierce quality really comes a lot from the Ardra part. Because the first part of Gemini is very soft. Because Gemini is also a very soft sign. The first part of it is Mrigashira, which is maybe one of the most gentle nakshatras. Thank God I got a few planets there. Otherwise, I'd be a complete intolerable. And the last section, Punarvasu, is also very gentle. So there's a lot of gentle energy throughout Gemini. But the middle of it, especially the Ardra section, man, it's not to be toyed with. When people have planets in Ardra, they are, again, they're either going to defend something. And so again, if you have planets in Ardra, you got to be careful, because you're always going to be looking to defend what you think is true, what you think is right. So it's absolutely necessary that you connect with what is right, actually right, not some counterfeit version of what's right. In that case, then Ardra is just defending the ego and creating a lot of problems and making a mess. But of course, it doesn't look that way. We always think that what we're thinking is right. So this is why it's very important, of course, always to connect with Dharma and truth. When that's the case, then those planets in Ardra and that quality of Shiva to bring out the Trishul and stab you with it and stick it in you and say, I don't care if you like it or not. This needs to change. This needs to be transformed. These false ideas need to be destroyed. I don't care who likes it. The truth needs to be spoken, and it needs to come back. And again, it doesn't mean that it's even about, it's not even about personalities, it's about ideas. Again, this is the other thing to remember. I mean, look at the nature of Shiva in this regard as well, because again, this is the fierce quality of Ardra, or Ardra is the fierce quality of Shiva. Shiva is the great yogi. Shiva accepts all. Shiva doesn't even care if you're a Brahmin or you're this or you're that. And Shiva respects and looks at the quality of the person. You know, Shiva's the one who would say, you know, I don't care if you're a prostitute or you're this or you're a Brahmin or you're whatever. If you do the sadhana, I'll give you the boon. Even if you're an asura. Again, in many ways, that's very Gemini kind of nature, which is like, I'm open, whatever you're doing. If you do this stuff, I'll give it to you. Very much about that kind of fairness, because this is a big part of Gemini as well. It's about the ideas, at least on this level. It's those ideas and those principles and those concepts that establish Dharma that are very important. Now, we're seeing this in the world. We're going to see it more. I'm starting to notice. And I've been looking to maybe do a Trump update and stuff. I'm actually right in the middle of doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes with my certification course again and whatnot. So I've gotten a little off with doing some updates. But there's been so many big major shifts recently. I mean, there's going to be some big political shifts happening. There are big ones happening with Trump, but I just saw today on the news that they're finally, and I say finally because personally I think it's way overdue, that they're going to start really formally looking into formal impeachment inquiries, at least looking into some of these things that we already know. These are illegal activities, diverting funds that weren't allocated for certain things, emoluments clause. I mean, the recent debacle with the vice president staying in Trump's properties. I mean, it's flagrant, in your face, middle finger to the world saying, yeah, I'm getting rich off the taxpayers. Who cares? What are you going to do about it? And the answer is nothing so far. We have a Congress, a Democratic Congress full of wimps who won't do anything. And so it's very clear. So I'm not going to get into that here, but there are winds of change coming. And one thing about Ardra, like I just said, is it's about righteousness. And finally, what's going to happen are these politicians are going to finally start doing what's right and sticking up for what's right. There are so many reasons why they could open at least a formal impeachment inquiry. That's their job, by the way. It's not like, oh, Sam, you just hate Trump. Look, this guy there is someone sitting in jail right now for 2 crimes that Trump is a co-conspirator on, that Trump directed. It's not even a debate. Michael Cohen is sitting in jail for 2 crimes that he executed at the behest of Trump. And they were campaign violations as well. We have canceled check that Trump wrote while he was president, paying off him. The evidence is astounding. He violates the emoluments clause over and over again. Not to mention all the possible obstruction of justice with his lawyer. There is so much to open an inquiry in. Even obstruction of Congress, or even not cooperating with Congress. This was one of the impeachable offenses of Nixon. Not allowing people to cooperate with Congress was one of Nixon's impeachable offenses. And Trump has done this probably 25 times or something. All of the constant obstruction. So at least it's their job to look into it. It's their job. It's not like, well, I don't know, maybe we'll do it. What are you talking about? It's your job. Oversight. We have 3 branches of government. How can the president be known co-conspirator in a crime, and you're not going to look into whether or not that's investigated or not? Anyway, so this is just, it's remarkable. And as And as Ann said, he keeps getting worse because he gets away with it. Yeah, he gets away with it. There's like no check. Look, something that happened this week, diverting money from the defense bill to pay for the wall. That is constitutionally illegal. You cannot do that. Congress allocates money. The president signs it into law. That's the law. You can't then go say, well, that law that we signed and that money you allocated, I'm going to now do whatever the hell I feel like doing with it. What are you talking about? We don't have a constitution anymore then. You're not allowed to do that. And again, if they're going to do that, are they going to be okay if we get a Democratic president and the Democratic president says, okay, we have this defense budget, but now, you know what? I think I'm going to divert, $100 million out of the defense budget and spend it on the Green New Deal. How's that? What would the Republicans do? They would file impeachment immediately. They would be bouncing off the walls. Or if the next president paid off a porn star, or the next president, whatever, any of the number of known outrages and blatant violations of law. And again, if you don't like that I'm saying this, I'm sorry, but here I am being Ardra, but I'm sorry, but these are just facts. It's not my opinion. We do have laws. They are real. Again, this is also what Dharma is. And this is one of the reasons why I speak about these things. Again, and I'm going to bring it back. I don't dislike Trump, quote, as a person. I don't even care. I don't know him. I don't even consider ideas of whether he's a good guy or a bad guy or this. I don't care about any of that. He's doing a job, and the job needs to be done correctly. When he was a weird celebrity doing whatever he wanted, laugh at him and do whatever, I don't care. But you become president, and then everything you do affects everybody else. Now it's everybody's business. So he could have stayed in his lane and not jumped into the lane of being a lawmaker and taking on this role of Dharma, because a leader is now stepping into a role that should be dharmic, which means your actions are now affecting all of us. And again, Dharma means the truth of your actions. And we're seeing the truth of his actions, and we have systems of government that check those actions. And again, this is why the only reason I even care about it, other than that, I couldn't care less about the guy. It's nothing people who have become blinded by this and who have become fanatics and biased themselves, like their head explodes when I just talk about the truth of what we can see with our own eyes. It's not my blindness and my bias and my hatred of him that makes me speak the truth. This is just the truth that we all see. It's people's blindness and bias for him, no matter what he does, that refuses to see the truth. So again, these are the kinds of things I said when Rahu went into Gemini at the end of March, we were going to see the truth come out. We were going to see all of this come out. And it would be harder and harder for people to maintain all of the fiction that we've seen, especially since Rahu went through Leo and Cancer. And since the end of March, it's been like crazy. People that are not speaking the truth and are not upholding, especially dharmic traditions. And that includes leaders. And again, leaders are part of the Kshatriya caste, which are really the ones who are entrusted to keep the Dharma. Look, we might say you have to know how to interpret these things. Governments and government officials and military, all that falls in the domain of Dharma. And again, because we're not used to those people being dharmic now in this adharmic age, we don't think it winds up being in the realm of Dharma. But notice how all politics is cloaked in the shroud of Dharma. They all cloak themselves in the realm of their philosophies, and they're a leader, and they're righteous, and they're leading us to something in their philosophies, and they're this and they're that. They all present themselves as dharmic figures. And we attach a lot, if people don't have a true understanding of Dharma, they attach their belief systems and their sense of righteousness and right and wrong to these figures, and they stop using their discrimination and thinking critically. They stop actually using their brain and say, well, I like him, so no matter what he does, I'm not going to criticize him. And again, this is completely anathema to this Ardra energy, this Gemini energy, It's very negative, like the lower qualities of the Jupiterian. He's the great leader, and I like him no matter what. And Gemini's like, I don't care about all that stuff. So again, we're going to see in the world, and again, maybe on the other end, let's see how it plays out. But on the other end, you have people who say, this is what always comes back at me. Well, what about, Trump is actually the righteous one? I'm so narrow-minded because Trump is actually the righteous one who's leading us to the truth and exposing all of the Hillary corruption and all of these conspiracies that come around. And again, people that assail me, they say I'm so blind because I don't realize that all the conspiracies and stuff is the real truth, and I'm just playing into all the mainstream media stuff, and that Trump is actually working on a higher level. Again, okay, maybe that's what you believe. I prefer to believe what I can see with my own eyes at this point. And again, I have no illusions that all of these agencies and these other people are also corrupt. The system itself is the most corrupt thing. But that does not wipe away what we see with our own eyes. What we see someone who is obviously ill-equipped for the job he's doing, and his own personal enrichment is at the heart, and it's really it's just obvious, and it's going to be harder and harder to maintain. Even the know-nothing, do-nothing, weak Democrats are finally realizing, look, we got to do something here. This is just out of control. What are we going to let? I mean, literally, what is he literally at some point going to shoot someone on Fifth Avenue, and Nancy Pelosi still won't do anything? I mean, literally, that's probably the only true thing he ever said, is he could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and not lose a voter. He's probably right, and probably not even get impeached if Nancy Pelosi had anything to do about it. So again, this kind of stuff is, we see it in politics, and yeah, I didn't plan to get to it as much into this as I am, but it is definitely being shown that that this Ardra kind of need to fight for the truth. I think again, it's going to show all of this polarity and the polarizing, because once these things start, it's going to be very divisive for our country in the U.S. Look at other parts of the world. The other big fight that you're seeing around this, the same kind of dharmic lines, the same kind of issues. You see it in England with Brexit. Big, same kind of thing. You have a nationalist who's very much a Trump kind of figure playing into that, and you have the people that don't want to leave the EU. And it's very similar kind of psychological profiling, I guess you might say, around the whole issue of sort of protectionism, nativism, and all kinds of economic, problems, and potential economic collapse, and economic pressure that could be brought on all different levels. Look at what's happening in Hong Kong, another huge thing that's happening with the protests there. Had enough. Look at what's happening in India right now with Modi really pushing the envelope in Kashmir, and the world is really on the verge of popping, with a lot of people ready to stand up and fight and die defending Dharma. The Hong Kong, if you haven't watched it, they're very brave, because, and China has showed enormous restraint in not cracking down violently against the protests in Hong Kong. They'll probably happen again this weekend. I didn't look, but they've been happening every weekend for a couple months. So a few other things. We just saw a prelude to this, but Ardra is also literally related to storms. And notice, like the hurricane that we just had, it could be a big hurricane season for sure. Typhoons, hurricanes, major water damage problems from the end of September to the end of April of next year. There could be, again, explosive events. I mean, we could have some major civil unrest in the world. It could look at all the kind of unprecedented situations that are just about to pop right now. And Rahu is right on the verge of going into Ardra. And again, Rahu is that energy that's ready to just blow everything up, blow everything and destroy everything. That's really what Rahu is. Even more than Mars. Mars is about breaking things that need to be broken, but again, it's more contained, it's more controlled. It's not like bam, all of a sudden, out of the blue, something comes and shifts everything immediately. That kind of paradigm shift of explosiveness is very much about Rahu. And so we're heading into a very, potentially dangerous, difficult time. And we need to be vigilant and, be on the lookout even for things like, of course, the terrorist kind of things. But also, I also think one of the big things that can happen, there are a couple. One is like just natural disasters, because Rahu is very much about these floods and hurricanes and tidal waves, and but also, again, we had 9/11 with not just the moon, but I believe Jupiter was also in Ardra, and Rahu was, Rahu might have been in Mrigashira. I'm not actually on a computer that has the software. I know the moon and Jupiter were in Ardra. But again, this nakshatra very much about the change and transformation that blows things up suddenly and then has like a flood, a sort of deluge of water or debris or data or something. And it could show financial, if not collapse, but just sudden shocking, like shock waves blow up. Again, the other thing that we're not talking about, again, this is the thing with, I'm going to get on Trump again a little bit. I just can't help it. But, while we're looking at all the ridiculous stuff about taking a Sharpie on a tornado map and all this, this, trade war, like playing with fire on the world economies are teeter-tottering. They're always tenuous based on fiat capital and impressions and, butterflies flapping their wings in Singapore. And it's all this game of cards anyway, this house of cards. And then you got this like Godzilla who doesn't know anything about finance, doesn't know anything about trade. No one thinks we should be in a trade war right now. I'll tell you the one, and yet just playing with fire, like it doesn't take much to destabilize, quote, markets, and then have that trickle down into panics and things like credit and a cascading effect. And the economies are all interconnected now, again, especially with this Brexit coming, this potential hard Brexit. Again, this stuff happening in Hong Kong, and also it's not going to be to the benefit of the world to have China's economy collapse either, because then that cascades. And again, these things need to be handled delicately, not with a jackhammer. And we have someone who has absolutely no understanding of these things. Larry Kudlow, his advisor, who plays a financial advisor on TV. He's surrounded by a cabinet of people that were on TV. Again, it's like we're just used to this clown car now, but it's like, man, it's getting on, 3 years of just, the State Department is gutted. There's no diplomacy happening. There's so many things that could happen. And this Trump's biggest problem, I've said it from the beginning, isn't even all of the stupid tweets and all of the corruption and the emoluments and the self-enrichment. All of that is infuriating. The biggest danger to me is his dreadful incompetence. He has no idea what he's doing. He doesn't understand any of this stuff. If Barack Obama would have made half of the just gaffes, just shown his blatant misunderstanding of basic policy, basic understanding, we would, I mean, I don't know what would have happened. This guy has no standard of functionality anymore. He could say the stupidest things and we just don't even think about it anymore. Again, and it's never ending. We're just acclimated to this level of sort of mental decline. You know, the simplest thing, if Pence goes to Poland and Trump comes out and, you know, what do you think about Poland and the commemoration of 80 years of being invaded by Germans? Well, I'd like to congratulate Poland. They're great people. It's just standard canned lines where he says nothing. Congratulate them. Congratulate them for what? It's a commemoration of when they were invaded by Nazis and destroyed. I'd like to congratulate them on being invaded by Nazis. Like, there's no standard for this guy. I mean, all of the, you know, when he visited the hurricane or the what was it? The victims. Oh no, the shooting victims. He's down there in Texas and in, what was it? Utah, was it? I'm sorry, I don't remember. But he's down there, photo ops, thumbs up of people who've just been massacres, and he goes down and talks about his crowds, and instead of consoling people, he has no, like, we're just completely numb to just this nut. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but it's like no standard. And okay, you can say you just don't like Trump. It's not that I don't like him. It's like we've gotten completely numb, and we focus on this stuff because it's so unbelievable, but we're not noticing just how incompetent everything else, like nothing is getting taken care of. It's trade war. I mean, if he was just letting things run and not screwing with everything so much, it wouldn't be as bad. But it's not. It's the problem is we focus on all this stuff, and it's outrageous, and we don't notice that, you know, everywhere things are just falling apart, and it doesn't take anything to like crash economies, especially based on fiat capital and you know, trade wars where no one thinks this is a good idea. So again, this Rahu going into Ardra, boy, I'm telling you, man, it's like Ardra just loves to blow everything up and like, bam. By the way, yes, the last time Rahu went through this section of the sky is when we had 9/11. Well, first of all, we had George Bush election, the first one, which ended in this recount where it was shown that Gore actually won Florida. That election happened with Rahu and Ardra. Rahu was in Ardra at that time, I know. During the recount, and then the Supreme Court saying, okay, stop the recount, which was incredible. And then while Rahu was still in Gemini, we had 9/11. And, you know, so again, we can look back at that. The other thing that I wanted to say is that I think that there's going to be major problems with the court during this time, because Jupiter is also going to join Ketu, and Jupiter is going to be in that nodal axis as well. It's going to be in that axis where it's going to be Jupiter, Ketu, Sagittarius also. And so I think we're going to see some things with the courts. I never predict anyone's death, and I'm not going to predict anyone's death now, but there could be some changes with the Supreme Court. perhaps some major Supreme Court decisions or some changes. Look, I see the things with higher vibrations, please, and all like that. It's all I do is talk higher vibrations all the time, and there's nothing low about this vibration. I'm trying to speak some truth. And again, this is the world we live in, and it doesn't take anything away from anything else. So let's all put our big girl and big boy pants on and listen to stuff, or not, or leave. But as always, there's a higher spiritual purpose of everything, which I've already talked about. Well, somebody's a MAGA guy. All right, Sabri, way to go. Let's make America great again. I agree. But again, the thing about Shiva, like I said at the beginning, was one of the main things is to say and listen to the Sri Rudram. And this really connects to the power of Shiva on the deeper level, the power of Shiva to transform toward a higher purpose, transform toward things beyond this world, because that's really what Shiva is. The things I'm talking about right now, this is the world, and it's going to happen. Things are going to happen. It's going to be a major transformative time. We can already see it. We already see what's coming. We can see it all around the world. What do we think? Brexit's going to go away? We think what? Trump is going to stop being who he is? We think, what do we think? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think? You think it's all going to just go away because we want to go, we got to be ready. And so that's always a part of it. So this is, I see these big transformations coming. And you know what? I've never, and I don't ever hope for or cheer for problems, pain, death. I live in America. I live in the world. I live in the earth. I don't want to see anyone die. I don't want to see anyone suffer. I don't want to see myself suffer. I don't want to see you suffer. And what I see, though, is all of this difficulty and things piling up, and enough spiritual bypassing by enough spiritual bypassers since Trump has been elected. Everybody's eyes are closed, mouths are shut, nobody says anything and acts like it's not happening anymore. And that's a great recipe for everything crashing all at once. Let's just rise above it all. And by the way, I'm not talking about the bypassing, the comments in this thread. I'm talking about just in general. People were fierce and fed up for a while, and then it's just draining. And I get it's draining, but there's going to be, it's going to be time to really get. Look, when events change and shift, everything shifts. And one of the things is that the light always wants to stay in the light and kind of removed from all that struggle. And this is what it gets us. This is the reason we have him. I think one of the main reasons we even have Trump now is because all of the light workers and all just found the alternative in the last election just so yucky and false equivalents and, it's all the same. And who knows, even the Susan Sarandons were like, maybe it'll be good. He'll come and just blow the world up and make the transition come quicker, and it'll be good for us all. Okay, is it good? All right, great. Maybe you're right. Maybe I don't know. But that whole, that's what we're seeing now. It's certainly our karma. Certainly our karma to have an outdated election cycle. And as much as people, love the guy, let's say, for example, he got 3 million less votes. He wound up, losing by a lot. But we have an archaic electoral system. We don't have majority rule. We're getting the karma of all this stuff. So this is the karma as a country. But, I'm talking about this in pretty intense terms right now, because these are things that are coming that we see. Now, again, as always, and I never leave it that far, and I can talk about these things like that, and then when I'm done, I'm fine. Hopefully you'll be fine too, because the nature of self and spirit and truth is beyond that. And this is really what Shiva and Rudra teach, because Shiva and Rudra teach that the world is the world, and you're never going to change the world. You can only, you're in the world but not of the world, you're in the world but not of the world. And this is why Shiva as Rudra will give a boon to anybody. If you do the sadhana, Shiva will give you the boon. He's given the boon to Donald Trump. So those of you who love Trump, yeah, he's very much the kind of Ravana figure. Ravana was an emanation of Shiva. He did the sadhana, and Ravana came out and then challenged Lord Rama, who was a Vishnu avatar. The struggle between Vishnu and Shiva is shown between Ravana, who was a quality of Shiva, and Shani. And again, it wasn't like he was wrong. It was there to bring about this change and this transformation and take consciousness to the next level, to challenge and test Lord Rama. And Lord Rama passed the test, and Lord Hanuman stepped up, and all kinds of stuff started to change and transform when Ravana challenged Lord Rama. And so, yeah, I mean, if the reason Trump has that power, he's got that power. He got it from God, like all the rest of us. So again, people don't like when I say this, because they think I'm so biased or I hate him so much. Honestly, to me, it's just seeing what everybody sees. And again, I can't stress enough. I don't know the man. I don't even think on that level. Yeah, he's got enormous power, and we can study and look and see how someone can influence and just kind of hypnotize the whole world and the whole country. It's pretty remarkable. Very Rahu-like. He was born on eclipses and all that other stuff. So again, this whole Rahu thing, Trump runs a lot of Rahu energy. He was born on a lunar eclipse, right? But so, as it was said earlier, he personally also has Mercury in Rahu. And so, again, we're going to see he has Mercury in Ardra. So his Mercury, which is his 2nd and 11th lord, we're already starting to see the effects of Rahu getting really close to his 2nd and 11th lord, which has to do with speech. And it's the quality of Leo that has this exaggerated speech. Leo tends to exaggerate, especially toward their own braggadocious ways. They can tend to be braggadocious, Leo. They can tend to overstate their own views, put undue importance on their own accomplishments, basically braggers. They certainly can be, because Mercury, the planet of speech, rules the 2nd house of speech, literally, and the 11th house of big stuff. So Leos tend to make they emphasize their own values and ideas a little bit more than others. So what we've been seeing, and Rahu's not even in Ardra yet, but we've seen his crazy speech and his obvious, it looks like just a mental decline has become very much revealed now. As Rahu gets closer to his Mercury, it's going to get more noticeable. It's going to get more urgent. It's going to be more noticeable. And I'll even say this. I would not be surprised, and a couple other people have said this. I actually said this and thought this during the election, that he might just drop out when the election was happening and his poll numbers tanked so much. and it looked like he was going to lose, I had a feeling that he might just drop out rather than suffer the humiliation of a defeat. His poll numbers, and whether anybody believe, people that are just mugha hypnotized never want to face facts, but we do have polling numbers and we do know what's going on. He's done nothing to grow any of his support. He didn't have enough support to win the last time. Now he's got a record. He's not added anyone to his quote base. He's done nothing but subtract from any voters, which means there were a lot of voters that gave him a chance. They were called swing voters. And we know this. This is polls. We already know the demographic in which he won. It was mainly white people. It was mainly old white people. And a lot of them were swing voters, and especially suburban swing voters. Swing voters in general, he won about 60-40. Swing vote polling, even after Trump had been in office for a year, he had already lost the swing vote. And again, the numbers are devastating. People that now say, under no circumstances would they vote for him. His numbers among young people, I mean young people like below 35 or something like 70 against him, like maybe 30%, and something like 60% said they would never vote for him. I mean, these are devastating numbers, and he knows it. This is why now he's so desperate to try to get the wall. All he knows how to do is subtract, double, quadruple, down, further and further into the base, spread more xenophobic BS to try to, play the same strategy that won the last time, but he won the last time without a record and running against the most unpopular person ever. That ain't going to work this time, and I think he knows it. I think that's one of the reasons he's like freaking out so much. And here's what could happen. Knowing the reality of this, those poll numbers being horrible, if they start impeachment, other stuff starts coming out, he might just bag it. Of course, if he did it, if he decided not to run again and decided, or maybe even resign, it would save him the humiliating defeat, because more than anything, he just hates to be humiliated. And it would be a humiliating defeat, I think. This is what I would say. Again, it's not an astrological prediction where I'm looking at his chart, but it's just because I don't know who he's running against, but it's just knowing polling and demographics and voting and what happened the last. I mean, these are numbers. We have data. You can assess data. I wouldn't be surprised if he, at some point next year, got out of it. They're already trying to shore it up now by having the Republicans call off the primaries because he's being primaried. Fox News is turning on him. The Mooch turning on him, rallying people against him. We got to defeat this guy. This is just going to grow. It's just going to grow. It's not going to get less. It's going to get more. Imagine impeachment's coming. Just imagine how much is going to be coming at this guy. And this is the karma he brought on himself. He could have just done what he initially thought to do when he started running, and everybody could see it. You don't need Scaramucci and all these other people to come out and say that it was a publicity stunt designed to promote his business. Everybody knows that's what it was in 2015 when he started. But he was drunk with power and kept going and wound up getting into a situation that he shouldn't be in because he's unqualified. He doesn't know what he's doing. And you can't do that and violate Dharma this way and not have everybody coming at you except for the few diehard, hypnotized, biased MAGA people. Yeah, there's going to be 15 to 20%, maybe 20, 25% of them. He'll never lose them because they're looking for a strong figure. And he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and they'd still vote for him. Yeah. That might be 20 to 25%, but he's just shrinking. So maybe it'll just collapse. Maybe he'll just resign. Maybe they'll even convene. Maybe they'll do 25th Amendment. Maybe he'll do something so crazy that even Pence in the cabinet says, that it's just too much. So, I went off a little bit. So let's see, some people have somebody's telling me to go meditate. I know I'm triggering some people, but every now and then. So anyway, there are big changes coming. Certainly this Rahu in Ardra, it's going to show some big unexpected shifts. This is also why I'm saying this stuff. Again, he does have a very significant planet there, and it's Mercury, his Mercury. Look for his speech and his presentation and all that to get way more erratic, as if it's not erratic enough. Look at how erratic this guy already is. And he's going to have Rahu going right over his Mercury. Again, this is already the quality that makes him braggadocious and just kind of, now with Rahu going right over it, I mean, what do you think that's going to do? Who knows? Let's see. But a lot of big shifts and changes underneath it all. This for you, it's a big, it's a big shift. And again, I talk about these things. Honestly, I'll just say, I'm a very passionate person. Anything I'm talking about, I'm passionate when I'm talking about this way, that way, this way, that way. And then I'm done, and then I'm done. And then after this, I'm going to go to the beach and take a swim and all like that. So you should be like that too. This is the world. The world is this way. It's always been this way. We're in these intense times, and in these intense times, we have, this opportunity, by contrast, to be still and peaceful and relaxed, and to connect with that which is beyond. And again, this is also Shiva's energy. And again, I'm going to say this again. I don't have any passion. I can't pretend that you don't see this guy. I mean, I saw it in the primaries, but that doesn't mean that there's personal hatred or dislike, or he's this or he's that. It's looking at the thing with discrimination. You can just see, okay, this is what we got. It's not a personal kind of thing. And so the reason I'm saying this again is because in your life, what are you attached to? What are you too emotionally attached to and fired up about, that's blinding your discrimination, that's making it so you can't function, or that you've lost your heart. This is why I said that, because there are people, look, if you bring hatred and anger, and you're like, oh, now again, you might be saying, God, Sam, you're so hypocritical. Look at you. Look, I'm passionate about everything. I'm passionate about this, and then the moment passes. I have a lot of these energy. That's my nature. And then I'm just as passionate about, believe me, like sitting still, eyes closed, meditating. That's just the energy I bring. But there's not hatred and anger, and I don't hate or angry at anybody. If you get in that role, they've won. They've won. That means anger and hatred towards people who, let's say, like Trump, or Trump himself, or this people, or that people, or these people, or that people. I said, and I meant it from the beginning, when Rahu went into Gemini, the big test is to to notice the truth, and to have this discrimination and see the truth, and not get attached and fired up, and especially getting angry and frustrated with the world and the people in the world. We have to do what we have to do. We have to call it out. We have to show up for it, but we can't define ourselves by this world, because we're not of this world. And this is the deeper lesson of Shiva. This is the Shiva energy. The Shiva energy is, he's always meditating on the hill. He's always established in the divine. And even when he's coming at you with the Trishul, he's called Pashupati, which is the one who kills the animals. He's also the one that kills your animal body, but you're not the animal body. It's not just that he's Pashupati, which is the lord of the hunt and the lord of the animals, animals like sheep and cows, but you're an animal. And he's Pashupati, he's the lord of your animal nature as well. And this is why when they would kill the animals, in the dharmic sense, they would worship the animal, pray to the animal, and pray that the animal gets liberation so that it didn't die in vain. We're all going to die, and Shiva's going to come for us, and he's going to transform. The biggest transformation that we come is one day we have to leave the body. And all yoga is preparation for leaving the body. All yoga is preparation for leaving the body. And at the moment that we leave the body is the hardest thing we have to do. There's great regret and anger and frustration and pain. It's the most painful thing that can happen, is as we're leaving the body and we have to let go of the world. And it's all that anger and that fear and that hatred and all those toxic emotions that Shiva drinks, that Rudra as Shiva drinks. That's why when they were churning the milk ocean, all the toxic poison came out and Shiva drank it all and held it all. So all this stuff that we're seeing in the world and all this stuff that you might hear me saying about Trump and all the triggering it might be, and you hate me for saying it, or it might look like I hate them for doing it, or this or that. And, you know, I get fired up about this. I get fired up about everything. Yeah, all that's true. And all of this is the interplay of the gunas, the interplay of the light and darkness in our mind, the battlefield of consciousness, the play of consciousness and the play of the world on consciousness. And it's our attachment is the mistake. It's the only mistake. There's nothing, none of it's wrong. Trump is again, he's divine. He's a divine test. And he's a divine test to stay engaged, to not get angry, to not bypass, to not get too attached, but be involved. It doesn't mean you don't say anything. It doesn't mean you don't say anything because you got people that are going to yell at you and all that. So what? Yell at me. Come on, give it to me. I don't care. I'm not defined by what you say anyway. You don't like it? You don't like it. I feel like I'm speaking truth. That's that. We can still speak the truth. We can still be true. Those who refuse to see it, why? Why do you give this guy a pass when you won't give anyone else a pass? What fears why does he comfort you? Why does Big Daddy, who can fix it, why does that comfort you so much that you're blind to it? Ask yourself that, or don't. But these are the questions we have to ask, that we have to answer. And all of that attachment that we have to some story in the world, whether it's for or against this, that's the soul in the cage. That's the soul trapped. That's the soul struggling for its true self. And that's the soul that's lost its equilibrium, that's now in the world and not of the world, or that's now removed from the world. And this will disturb your mind. And when it's a good example, because when he was first elected, it did disturb my mind for a while. It was fearful. I was like, wow, and just paradigm shifting. Can't believe that so many people feel that way. And then by and by, you realize, okay. But by the way, it's not just him. It's all over. I see these similar kinds of fake news, bad information, false equivalents all over the place, not just with him. He's the most obvious example, but I see it all over the place. People, flat earthers, and it's like facts don't matter anymore. And this is the world we have now. And it's all Shiva's doing it. He's saying, okay, you thought this world was this way? No, it's not. So, any questions? If you got questions, you can ask them. I'm going to put my shades on so you can't see me. I didn't get any water. I did all that and I didn't even drink. I didn't even take a drink. So honestly, yes, I am, I started a long time ago with meditation and thinking the world was just not going to do anything, and that none of it was important anyway. And in many ways for me, it was very good to return to that kind of basic, okay, this is the world. And it's always been this way. So someone's asking, channel Ardra Purvashada constructively. Well, one of the best things is meditate. That's always the best thing. Shiva is about meditation. So if there's anything about channeling Rahu Ardra constructively, it's meditation. Sit still, shut up, close your eyes, and be Shiva. Imagine you're Shiva. That's the best way to meditate. Pick the beloved deity that you love, and then when you meditate, imagine that's the way you look. Imagine you're Shiva. Feel, I'm Shiva now. Or whoever your beloved deity is. It's not like you're worshiping them, you are them. And by the way, you are. And listen to the Sri Rudram. Listen to the Sri Rudram. Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivardhanam urvarukamiva bandhanan mrityor mukshi amamritad. Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivardhanam urvarukamiva bandhanan mrityor mukshi amamritad. Couple others. That was this one. Channel it creatively. We say, notice more spiritual messages coming through. Yeah, a lot of spiritual potential devotion right now. I made this update very much about worldly stuff because there's so much worldly stuff going on. There's so much of the world in transition right now. But again, it's always, always, always opportunities for the spiritual power underneath it all. Always. And again, Ardra is about wanting to destroy and blow things up very powerfully. And that could be you, And so again, any planets there are going to be exploded and really transformed. So get ready for it. Yeah, I'll be looking at the Democratic candidates, and I've already looked at a couple of them. I'll tell you right now, my favorite by far is Tulsi Gabbard, not even close second. Tulsi Gabbard to me she would be an extremely uniting figure. And what I see right now is that no matter who it is, all the other Democrats are going to be extremely polarizing. Doesn't matter who it is. The one that seems to be, the two that seem to be coming out the most, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, Biden, they're all very polarizing. Tulsi Gabbard she would be right down the middle. Republicans would love her too. They already do. She's already very popular. She's got great policies, very progressive, very compassionate. She wants to get us out of these stupid wars, bring the money home. She's absolutely the most subversive candidate as well. She's beyond partisanship and all that stuff too. So that's who I've definitely gotten behind. Well, the effect of Rahu's transit if you have planets in Ardra, example like Jupiter. So take all the things I said and then think about Jupiter in relation to those things. Okay? It's really simple. I just talked about it. You don't need every example to get the principle. If you know what Jupiter is, then take everything I've said about transformation, Ardra, Shiva, blah, 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 and apply it to Jupiter, if Jupiter's there. What's Jupiter? Apply all that stuff to Jupiter. It means your teachings, your this, all those Jupiter things are going to shift. Transformation happens when you're Ardra Mula. Yep. So who I think should be president, I already said I would love Tulsi Gabbard. I really would. It could still happen, even though it's early. It could happen. Of all the candidates, she could catch fire, because all it needs is for her to get in front of enough people. And in fact, it's already happened where she would be, I think she would be fantastic. It's not just because she's also, Hindu and all that, but she is so, her central platform is end these wars, stop going and killing people, take this money, this absurd amount of money we spend on the military, bring it back home for the people. Listen, we got so much money, we're awash in money, but most of it goes to the defense, to the military industrial complex for these wars. So we don't have money for anything else, and it's all jobs programs for Raytheon and defense contractors, so we can sell weapons all over the place. And look, this is the real stuff that's going on. Yeah, people that listen to Trump and his nonsense, learn something, man. What's happened is all your tax money is going to the military-industrial complex to pay for weapons that are then sold to these countries, and you get them fighting with each other. And it's all a bunch of, this is the thing that's going on. And we got enough money for everybody to have health insurance, for there to be beautiful roads, to live an incredible life. But instead, we're spending all this money to make all these weapons of war and to try to control the world through all this geopolitical crap. And Tulsi Gabbard is saying, enough of all of it. I'm going to end them all. I'm going to bring it home. I'm going to slash the defense budget. I'm going to bring the money back to the people. Tell me that's not a message that almost every American would get behind. Very simple. And by the way, this is the thing that always hangs up Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Because it's like, well, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? Nobody ever asked how we're going to pay for all these weapons. Nobody ever asked how we're going to pay for the trillions of dollars in tax cuts that, that Trump just gave away to businesses in the 1%. Nobody asked how you're going to pay for that. You just give it away. It's always how you're going to pay for health care, how you're going to pay for college. Well, first of all, you end all these interventions. You take all this money that we just give away to the defense contractors, and you start to be more sensible with it. We got plenty of money. It's just going in the wrong places. And these are, again, this isn't opinions. People are working hard, and all of the money that we've the value and wealth that we've accrued has gone to the 1%. People talk about, you don't want to talk about redistribution of wealth because it's socialism. Wake up, people. The wealth has already been distributed, and you didn't get it. It's already been redistributed, and you didn't get it. So again, people shoot themselves in the foot. It's all about redistribution of wealth when Bernie Sanders wants to give you some of it back, or Elizabeth Warren or Tulsi Gabbard want to give you some of your money back in programs that are going to help you. Then it's like, well, how are you going to pay for it? When Trump and these fools come in and explode the debt by giving away all these tax cuts to the rich, I didn't hear the media saying, well, how are you going to pay for that? I never heard it once. Never heard it. All they do is talk about false equivalence and all this stuff. That's, the biggest problem isn't even Trump in this country. It's the damn media who doesn't report anything fairly and accurately. This is why people don't even know what's going on. If you want to know my real feelings, it's a rigged system all around. Money buying politicians, media wanting to play it in the middle. Media is part of it. Anyway, so I think Tulsi's got the best message for sure. So it's all about, so somebody's going crazy about Bitcoin. Yeah, I might do another Bitcoin for sure. I haven't talked about it in a while, and it could definitely be on the rise. When I talked about it before, I definitely predicted its fall. By the way, RC, writing the same comment 5 times is really obnoxious, okay? Please, just stop. That's not cool. When I talked about it before, it was when Rahu was going through the first, and I could see, at least for a while, it wasn't going to do very well at all. And when people were saying, buy, because it's going to explode, I was saying at the time, I wouldn't buy, and I still don't really think it's ultimately going to be what people think it's going to be. But I'll do another video because it's definitely it started to rise as soon as Rahu went into Gemini. As soon as Rahu got out of Cancer, got out of the first house of Bitcoin chart, Bitcoin started to rise. So So they're all owned by corporations. Yep. So Marianne and Andrew Yang. Yeah, Yang definitely has possibilities. I like Marianne Williamson personally, but she's just not ready. I've seen her. She's not ready. She doesn't have the mentality. She hasn't run for office before. And when I've seen her, even on Bill Maher and on other places, she gets railroaded pretty easily. So I don't think Marianne Williamson's ready for it, but I'm glad she's there. Absolutely. And absolutely glad she's there. I really like what she says. And, you know, it's really good. Andrew Yang has some great ideas. I mean, you know, he's another one. But so anyway, that's about all. It's been what, an hour and 20 minutes? That's a lot. That's enough. Even for Rudra. Om Maha Ganapataye Namaha. So listen to the Sri Rudram. Listen to the Sri Rudram to balance out my satsang here. I just typed Sri Rudram. So I don't usually go off so much on politics these days because people's heads kind of explode. But I did today, and I'm just going to let the comments flow. So you'll see in the comments, people will be just talking about how I'm a mainstream media hack and all that stuff. Yeah, whatever. Oh, by the way, even I got to say this last thing. One of the reasons, I don't know if I mentioned it as much, I did a little bit, but one of the main reasons where you're really seeing things turn and change, and it's also why I wouldn't be surprised if 45 just kind of said, man, is even Fox News is really turning on them now. Even they're like, this is insane. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. We're seeing some major shifts happening. And again, I didn't say it was going to be bad, by the way. I said it's going to be some big shifts. So people that were like, come on, talk about the light. It is the light. So let's see how the light, you know, let's see how Shiva, you know, changes and transforms. And Leisha said, Sam Shiva. Yes, Sada Shiva. That's my spiritual name for a reason. That's my spiritual name for a reason. By the way, Leisha, you should join the course. I've been waiting for your registration to come through. You should be there. You should be there. And by the way, people, you should study astrology right now. That's one of the best things to do, is study astrology. You see, this is the reason why I'm not really worried about anything. I wear my shades all the time. In fact, I wear a pair of shades on the head and a pair of shades on the eyes. My future is so bright, I need 2 pairs of shades. And one for the 3rd eye, 4th eye, 5th eye. Why? Because I know what you don't. And that's this. Click that link and learn this stuff correctly. You guys, you're not going deep. You're just skirting on the surface. You're just playing in the shallow end of the pool. You should go deep into it. As they said, as Timbuk3 said years ago, 50 thou a year will buy a lot of beer. I'm doing all right, getting good grades. My future's so bright. I gotta wear shades. I gotta wear shades. Patricia Berger, looking forward to November conference. All right, folks. I got a crazy teacher who wears dark glasses. Hey, I didn't even remember. That's a line from the song. I got a crazy teacher who wears dark glasses. Things are going great, and they're only getting better. I'm doing all right, getting good grades. My future's so bright. I gotta wear shades. I gotta wear shades.